question or series of questions is directed to each of you one at a time. Brief answers would be appreciated given time constraints. This past April, Iranian Brigadier General Mohammad Raza Naqvi stated that erasing Israel off the map is non-negotiable. Do you believe his comments accurately reflect a goal of the Iranian government? Ambassador?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Dubowitz?
Absolutely.
Mr. Goldenberg?
Yes, but they wouldn't do it if it meant the destruction of their regime, which I think it certainly would.
Okay. Second question. This past weekend, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei led a rally that was frequently punctuated by chants of death to America and death to Israel. Again, do you believe his comments accurately reflect a goal of the Iranian government?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Dubowitz?
It is their animating ideology. Without that ideology, there is no Islamic Republic.
Mr. Goldenberg?
I think it's important to remember that the overwhelming majority of the Iranian population is actually much more pro-American than pretty much any country in the Middle East. So this regime has issues, but thus far at least it's been deterred through and will continue to be deterred by our actions.
Okay, that's not answering my question. Do you believe death to America and death to Israel are goals of the Iranian government?
Not realistic goals that they could pursue without facing severe consequences that have deterred them for 35 years from acting on those goals in ways that could actually.
All right. Next. Given your responses, do you also believe that Iran, the world's foremost sponsor of terrorism, will use the conventional weapons made available by the Iran nuclear treaty to further Iran's goal of destroying Israel and killing Americans? Ambassador Joseph?
I think there's a 100% chance that they will do that.
Mr. Dubowitz?
It's already used conventional weapons to kill Americans and kill Israelis. Why wouldn't it continue?
Very good way to answer a question with a question. I tend to agree. Mr. Goldenberg?
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things, that we should be doing to counter those activities, but it doesn't necessarily preclude a nuclear agreement.
And given how frequently we have seen Muslim fundamentalists be willing to sacrifice their own lives in furtherance of their desire to kill unbelievers. We saw it with 9/11 roughly 14 years ago. We've seen it in many other places around the globe, including the United States. As I see this agreement, at some point there is a probability that Iran is going to obtain nuclear weapons. Do you agree or disagree?
I think they can go nuclear today if they so decide and have a nuclear weapon in a very short period of time.
And if they comply with this agreement, do you believe they still will obtain nuclear weapons at some point?
It's hard for me to believe that they're going to comply with the agreement because, as you know, the chairman pointed out, they've cheated on every other agreement. My sense is that they will use this agreement as a shield for continuing to develop a nuclear weapons capability. And when they decide, they will go nuclear.
Mr. Dubowitz.
I think at some point it will be an irresistible impulse to actually test a nuclear weapon. And even if they don't, they will use the near-zero breakout capability they will have to threaten the United States and threaten the region and use it as an instrument of nuclear blackmail in order to expand their conventional and terrorist activities.
Mr. Goldenberg.
I think they've been deterred from actually going for a nuclear weapon for 35 years because of the costs and consequences that come with that, and this agreement will extend and continue that trend.
And of course, Congressman, that actually contradicts the claim that if this agreement gets turned down by Congress, Iran is going to engage in nuclear escalation to a nuclear weapon.
I understand. Final question. Given the religious zealotry of the Iranian government, what degree of certainty do you have, one way or the other, that Iran won't use nuclear weapons to further death to America and death to Israel if and when Iran obtains those nuclear weapons? Ambassador Joseph.
Well, I think Iran will use nuclear weapons. They will use it to intimidate. They will use it to blackmail us. They will use it to deter us from coming to the assistance of our allies in the region.
Well, will they detonate them?
Will they detonate? I think they will risk it, and I think they will be and the situation will be very subject to miscalculation, And I think that this could very easily escalate into their use of a nuclear weapon.
If the Chair would permit, Mr. Dibowitz and Mr. Goldenberg.
They would certainly detonate it to test it. Then we would want the world to know that they have the capability to actually deploy a nuclear weapon. Whether they end up using it, I cannot say. But I think that it doesn't matter whether they use it or not. Fundamentally, they'll detonate it, and then they will have a nuclear weapon to blackmail the United States and the international community for all of their conventional and terrorist purposes.
I agree with my panelists, which is why I think we need this agreement, which stops that from happening, is, in my view, the better option.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the additional time for the witnesses to respond.
Mr. Brooks, thank you very much.